Now we're less than 5 months until the November election. That is hard to believe, but it's true. And there are two key ballot measures already qualified that are going to be on your ballot. One is to restore parental rights with schools. They can't keep secrets from parents. If my child wants a different pronoun at school, you have to tell me. If my child is confused about their gender and seeking a counsel at school, I have the right to know. The other is to protect girls in sports and to keep biological males out of girls' sports. Now, Let's Go Washington is behind both of these measures. And the individuals who will author the pro and con statements, which you'll see in the voters pamphlet, have been approved now by the Secretary of State. So I spoke with Darren Littell with Let's Go Washington today. He said the statements, although some people might not read their voter's guide, it ends up in the recycle bin before you ever open it. There's a lot of people that don't pay attention to politics every day, maybe don't watch the news or they're not on social media. And that voter's pamphlet may well be the first time for many before they, when they receive an education about what these ballot measures are all about.
The statements actually come down to they're very important. A lot of people read them. We've done testing on it to see how many people read them and the kind of impact that it has on their vote. And people actually do a lot of research, which I think is good. I think that more informed people are when they go to cast their ballot, the better off they are. So, crafting these statements is a critical part of the election, and making sure that they're done well and factually accurate, I think, are really important pieces of it.
So it is Washington House and Senate leadership for each party that gets to offer up a name. And then on the con side, you also have groups like the Washington Education Association and Planned Parenthood who will be writing the con statements for both of those ballot measures for the voters' guide. One of them is a woman by the name of Courtney Normand, state director for Planned Parenthood. She's on the con list for both initiative statements. And there's also a school board member, a counselor, I should say, not a school board member, a school counselor for the Franklin Pierce School District. And I reached out to her, did reach her via email this morning, and I'm hoping to get an interview with her as to why she, wants to provide the con statement on one of these initiatives for voters. We're hoping to connect later today, and I will bring that to you in tomorrow's episode of Washington in Focus Daily. Either way, I'll be writing up an article on that to kind of share her perspective. In fairness, it's important to hear what she has to say as well. Now, we also know that the state and national teachers unions are heavily invested in convincing people to vote against the initiatives. There was a post on X from school choice advocate Corey DeAngelis, who wrote, teachers unions have already spent $423,000 to fight against protecting girls' sports and parental rights in Washington. The two initiatives will be on the ballot in November. NEA has apparently spent $250,000. WEA has spent $173,000. Now, Littell from Let's Go Washington shared that the voter pamphlet statements on the initiatives are different, of course, from the ballot titles and the impact statements on the initiatives that we will see on the ballot. Those are crafted by the state AG. And it's important to remember that in Washington, those statements are intended to be neutral. They should be, not swaying voters one way or the other. However, we have the state AG who has already publicly come out against both of the initiatives. So Littell and Let's Go Washington have a problem with that.
The attorney general, I mean, the attorney general has come out and said that he opposes the initiatives themselves. And so I think people can just ask themselves a question. If you are fundamentally against, you know, the rights of girls to have their own sports, and if you're fundamentally against the idea that parents should be involved in their kids' school, and then you're asked, how would you write a statement about it, or how would you describe that? Are you going to be fair and neutral about it? And I think that people would come down and say, well, probably not. And so that's really the challenge. It's one of the challenges that we face with the Attorney General's office, being able to write the ballot statements and the impact statements and all that along with the Secretary of State. I mean, these are people who are elected officials. They come out opposing these positions, and then they're asked to be nonpartisan and write them in a fair and balanced way. And I just think that um, anybody who's voting can understand that that might not be the best way to come about these. It's not that they use a bunch of bad language. It's that they write it in a manner that's so confusing that people can't tell if I vote yes for this, am I supporting this, or if I vote, am I supposed to vote yes to vote no, or how does this go? And just confusing the voters intentionally. And the number of people that come to us and say, "Boy, I really wish you wouldn't have written it in such confusing legalese language that we could have understand what it is that you guys are saying." My response is, look, we're trying to get these things passed. We would have loved to just say, hey, do you think that girls should be able to play sports? Do you think we should protect girls' sports and fairness in girls' sports? Do you think that parents have a right to know what's going on in their kids' schools? And just leave it at that, because that's effectively what these two initiatives are doing that are on the ballot right now. Is, do you think we should protect fairness in girls' sports? Do you think the parents have a right to know what's going on in their kids' schools? And when you ask it that way, people say, well, yeah, of course. Right. So then you would want to vote yes. But the way that they write it is just, it's a little confusing.
And we'll have more tomorrow from Let's Go Washington on the signature gathering numbers for yet another initiative that may well be on the November ballot. This is the one that hopes to repeal the newly passed income tax. They're out gathering signatures now. A couple of important deadlines for that. Let's Go Washington says any people that got mailed petitions to gather signatures on their own in their community, their church, their workplace, whatever, those need to be mailed back by June the 22nd. And then July 2nd is the deadline for Let's Go Washington to turn all of those in to the Secretary of State in hopes that they can qualify for the November ballot. They're trying to get somewhere close to 400,000. They don't need that many, but of course, you've got a lot of, voters that maybe sign twice or they're not a registered voter and don't, have the right to sign. And so those signatures get tossed out. They may well be on track, though, to break records for any previous numbers of signatures turned in for one of their ballot initiatives. So, more on that in tomorrow's episode of Washington in Focus Daily. So, that's a wrap for this Tuesday, June the 9th. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Check out our Center Square Washington page. See you tomorrow.